You're listening to a Time Machine podcast. Old Movie Time Machine. An adventure through time and or space. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Old Movie Time Machine. It's been a minute, everybody, so let me remind you what this is all about. We're taking a look at old movies made in the 1940s, 50s, and 60s. You know, your Cold War era, if you will. Color motion picture films made in the old US of A, and we're using these as windows into the past. We're traveling through time, everybody. That's why we call it the Time Machine. And we're going to climb through this window of time, and we observe the world beyond the window. And we ask ourselves questions about, hey, these people that we're observing, who are they? What are their habits? How are they treating each other? And most importantly, what do their living rooms look like? And what are they wearing? Yeah, that's the one. And currently, we are in the middle of a mini cycle we need to wrap up. We promised it back in November, and now right now it's going to be February.
I'm sorry, I had some things happen in my life.
Everybody had things happening in their lives, and we're going to talk about this and so much more at the end of the program. But we have unfinished business, you guys, and it's called 1996's Tom Hanks's That Thing You Do. I'm Jay-Z, by the way. I'll be your host through the window, joined as ever by the one and only Shrishma Naik. Hey, Shrishy Boo.
Hello. How's
Welcome.
it going?
Oh, things are really great now that we've had 2 months off.
That's true.
I feel well rested.
Great.
And
can we talk about Barbie?
Yeah, let me just bring in my sister and yours, Carolyn Naoroz. Hey, sis.
Hey there.
Do you mind if Shrishma talks about Barbie for a hot minute?
I finally saw it.
Oh.
I guess
So, yeah, we can
have
talk
lots
about
of things to say about Barbie. I'm going to leave that to the gals. Go right ahead.
Why is it nominated for Oscar?
And why is Barbie not nominated? Like, why is Margot Robbie or the director?
Do you know why? Because only Ryan Gosling got a nomination for said movie. Because it's a bunch of penises in Hollywood, people. A bunch of penises, and mostly white male penises.
But I'm just saying, they shouldn't have been nominated to begin with. Like, I don't feel anything in that movie was worth an Oscar nomination.
So you saw it. Okay. What does the dog have to say about it?
He's really upset that I'm so upset about it.
What's happening? Too many white penises, mommy.
I'm okay.
Okay, so you saw it. Carolyn saw it. I saw it. My real quick version of that story, if I didn't share it already, and if I did, I'm sorry, is I watched it and I was like, oh, I get the appeal. You know, this is not targeted to me, but I understand. You know, it's very funny. I get it. I like all these people. And then it reached this logical conclusion, and I said, "Oh, well, that was all right. I'm glad to have had the experience." And then I checked the time and saw that there were 50 more minutes left of the movie, and then I turned it off and didn't officially finish it. But I get the idea, and I'm fine with it. Is it Oscar worthy? I don't even know what that means anymore. But anyway, Shrishma, what was your experience like?
I guess that you made a very fair statement at the end, which is what's Oscar worthy. I just felt. Why is it even in the contention for any Oscars? It was an okay movie. Like, then you should nominate like Avengers or like Star Wars should be nominated.
Well, this is the Academy Awards have been lusting after this thing called relevancy.
Hold on. I need to get out my soapbox, which is great.
Yeah. Oh, Carol, just ignore that scraping sound. That's just Carolyn dragging out the soapbox.
Can you please add a scraping? And it's a really big fucking soapbox. And
it is huge. She's really breaking a sweat here. But the entire thing is that nobody really cares so much about what is effectively a company Christmas party.
Exactly.
Where they give each other awards, and the seams are starting to show in the modern era where we have access to all the news all the time, whenever we want it, whenever we need it, and all the media as well. And there's nothing really that special about what they're doing except trying to turn a profit. So
people should like what they want to like. They can go see what they want to see. Who cares what they're wearing at the company Christmas party. It does not matter. The only thing that matters is, did you like the film? Personally, that's all that matters. It doesn't matter.
If it was less, I don't know how one does this, but I feel like that there is a way you can do this without making it part of the machinery, I guess, of the industry. Like, this is the Academy Awards coming soon, next month, I think. I think that's when that happens. The entire thing is that it's just more promo during the kind of lean months, like everybody's back in school, but we give people a reason to go see these movies again in the theater and pay their money and buy their expensive food.
The part of it is that these films and the companies making them and the producers, the agents, the managers, everyone involved, they campaign to be nominated.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
I mean, it is a full-on major campaign with ads and billboard and variety, and they send people things, and oh my God, I mean, it's just
all part of the system, because if you are a performer, or if you're anybody who's not one of the producers, like the money people, right? The fact that you were an Academy Award nominee or Academy Award winning bumps you up to a different pay tier most of the time.
Yep.
And then on the other side of that is, if you are the money person, if you are a producer of some renown and your film that you have guided throughout the process of being made into a film, if that is successful, then you get to put that on the box, or back in the day, the VHS box. Academy Award winning Dances with Wolves. How many Oscars did it win? 700 Oscars. That's how important this is. Buy this.
Nominated for Best Picture.
Gotcha. But still, I don't think Barbie should be on that.
So you don't think? Okay. So now what they've tried to do is they've tried the Academy, that is, of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences. They've tried to broaden the scope of what they take in to gather a larger viewing audience and sell all this shit, right? So that's why you're seeing more, like, if, say, The Dark Knight came out in the modern times.
That should have been, that's a great example, Justin. That's exactly what I meant to say.
Right. Something like that, which has mass appeal, which it would not normally be because of its genre as a comic book movie, but is in fact an excellent movie for what it is.
I need one of the Harry Potters.
True.
What's that?
I need one of the Harry Potters.
Well, maybe Azkaban.
Yeah, Azkaban is great. It's also, hello, Alfonso Cuarón.
Yeah, it's incredible. So anyway, they've tried to do this to be more inclusive of more mainstream picks. So it's not all art house stuff or foreign stuff or things about issues, or also movies about making movies, because the Academy loves that too. Because again, that's another commercial for the industry. So I don't know. I mean, people really liked it. It touched a lot of people. Now, that being said, we can have the conversation. I don't know if here's the time, but we can have the conversation about what the message is. I think we actually discussed it. We did. Never mind. Fuck it.
About Barbie, where I was very vocal about.
You were on the cutting edge. You might still be on the cutting edge. I'm not sure. I don't know what people feel are with Barbie at this point.
Fine, but I also just okay, so Barbie, you're becoming middle-aged. It's called cellulite. It's called, all these intrusive thoughts. Like, this is just becoming middle-aged.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think it is outrageous that the person who is the title character, who is on screen almost the entire time, does not get nominated for at least a nomination. That is insane. Similarly, the director, a female director,
we have so many.
White male penis Hollywood, as Carolyn so gently put it, was not nominated for, again, this very moving just too many people piece of work.
Right.
This combination of art and commerce.
Combination of art and commerce, and the fact that, women in general are just, we don't have equality in so many ways. So, why would the men of Hollywood nominate any of the women involved in Barbie, which is just about middle-aged
Really
Barbie thoughts of
it's outrageous.
It is. Now that you guys say it like this,
it's all. I feel like it's all fake, right? It's all phony baloney. So like, why are we even going through the motions of everybody
like
go,
so obvious.
view your screeners and then you put in your ballot and then we'll count all the ballots. Just pick the fucking thing. Just do it.
Who wrote America Ferrera's soliloquy in that film? Because like that sums it up, like being a woman. Like don't be too much, but be beautiful, and be sexy, but not too sexy. Also, like kill it in your job and your hobby and at home and all the things. And you're like, this is why women are depressed.
Was nominated. Is that right?
She was.
Okay.
She was. Well, that's. Yeah, I'm glad.
Yeah, she was. But I also feel like her whole speech is like, I feel like it was like an Instagram post. Like we've seen that rhetoric on social media a lot. So like in that sense, to me, it wasn't anything original. We've seen that message.
Right.
And okay, fair. It came through the vehicle of the movie that was, Barbie.
Well, and that legitimizes it because we've put hundreds of millions of dollars into it.
Behind it.
Well, yeah. I mean, there's that, and I'm okay with that rhetoric. I mean, I get it. I feel it. There's just so many. There's so many things. There's so many things to unpack, and one film isn't going to do it, and
that's true.
One Instagram post isn't going to do it, and we've got some major fucking problems.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm sure Barbie was made with the purest of intentions at heart. I'm sure they didn't move any units of that doll that has corrupted women's view of themselves for the past, I don't know, half a century plus, or, so from that point of view, it's a success. I don't know. Guys, yeah, thank you.
Good job,
you guys ready?
Trish.
Look, we got a lot to cover here. Let's get into it. We're just going to get right into the summary, and then I'm going to contextualize, and then I'm going to get all y'all's thoughts. The time is 1964. The space is Erie, Pennsylvania. Guy Patterson is an electronics salesman at his family's store by day and wannabe drummer by night. He joins the Oneaters, a local band with a catchy song. Together, they win a talent show, get bookings at the airfield, and make a recording of their hit tune, or soon to be anyway, That Thing You Do. We're going to start there. You guys, we left off with the Kennedy assassination in November. And now this will be coming out right around the 60th anniversary of the Beatles appearing on the Ed Sullivan Show. Now, this is critical. I will try to explain it the best I can, as briefly as I can. Shrishma, stay with me. So we talked about the things that define this era and why this is one of the defining moments of the era. The Beatles invade America. What does that mean? Where is it coming from? It was a phenomenon, right? Beatlemania.
Right. It revolutionized. What's the word?
Revolutionized.
The American culture.
It did. It revolutionized global culture, in fact. Sure. So fair. Let's start simple here. The landscape pre-Beatles is very bland, very boring. Everything we've been watching in all of these previous movies from the 40s and 50s and early 60s, it's just white people in gray suits smoking and drinking to beat the band and ignoring their housekeepers and
perpetuating middle-class social norms and values.
That was America. In some regards, that continues to be America. But at the time, that was it. That was our post-war victory. Everybody had a house, if you're white. Everybody had a job, if you're white. Things were good. We had people going to college for the first time, people getting educated. The economy is thriving. We didn't have to do any rebuilding like Europe did. Europe was left in ruins after the Second World War. They had to build all that shit all over again. They had to build Europe. We did not have to go through that. And we were helping everybody. So we look like the good guy. We're the moral authority. You didn't have to drop an atomic bomb to do it, but don't start that shit. That's all. Again, just don't start that war. And maybe that doesn't happen. Right. That's all. So this is the world that we're living in. The world of post-war victory. However, there is this underground current that's always flowing, right? The free thinkers, the artsy people, the people who are the what now?
Teenagers.
And the teenagers too.
Baby boomers.
I think we've talked about this in the past. The teenager is still a relatively new phenomenon at this point.
Because they're not going off to war anymore.
Or to the factory,
right?
At age of 12 or whatever. Yeah, so they can finish their education. This is the first world. This is the modern first world, and it is quite a victory to have secured. It's given us everything. I mean, it given televisions, computers, fucking cell phones, fucking junk on the moon, whatever. I mean, all of that comes from this boom time.
Mm-hmm.
Can I quote a meme that I saw that is relevant? It's very relevant.
Kind of hesitant, but I'll allow it.
Okay. I will cite it. It's this Instagram account I follow called Snarky Breeders.
Hey.
So we'll cite it. But it does read, the difference between 2024 and 1990 is the same as 1990 and 1956. Anyways, have a great night.
I read that.
Interesting.
Here we are.
Here we are. So
I just can't believe the 90s was so long ago.
I know. Hey, I'll tell you what, put a pin in that thought, okay? We're going to talk about it at the end of the show.
Okay.
So here's the deal. So at this point, it's the 1960s, which means that, gosh, all of those minority groups that we've been suppressing and just ignoring and just sort of, you can clean my table. Mm-hmm. Sure, clean it right off. You can move my suitcase. Mm-hmm. You can do this. You can do that. Keep my house. You can raise my children for me. They've had enough of that because they've been living for the past 100 years with Jim Crow, which has been just another form of slavery, just sort of institutionalized and a little bit softer, a little bit more modern type of segregation. Right. And they're done with it. As well they should be. And also there is a generation of progressive young people who are white and also done with it. Right. And they understand that there's a cause and are allies in this. One of those people would be the president, John F. Kennedy. He represented a lot of change to a lot of people, a lot of forward thinking. We're going to get out of the mindset of the military industrial complex that we've been living with. You like it, Shrishma?
No, I want to add something when you're done.
Okay. Almost there. And we're going to work on our society. We're going to build a better society. We're going to take care of each other and our business. And that will make us a stronger, more complete country and will actually take us closer to the ideal that this country was founded on, which is equality. Right. We can't have equality when a black man can't piss in the same place as a white man. So we got to deal with this stuff. Now we have this assassination.
We also can't have equality when women aren't paid an equal wage or their unpaid labor goes.
Anybody who's not a white man, we can roll them in to the same argument of every people.
We're just not there yet.
Equally. Yeah. No,
we're not there yet. Okay.
No, we're still working at it. We still have to work at it. So all of this comes to a screeching halt, seemingly, when the president's shot. Right. And we talked about it last time, but I mean, it's an extraordinary event. It's unbelievable. And it's unbelievable that you can see it happen in slow motion, see this man's head, spilled across the country. It is
back and to the left.
Outrageous. Also false. Also, the ballistics are conclusive. Please see episode 60.
Please see the previous episode.
Yes. So you can imagine, I don't even know what the comp would be in modern times. I mean, I would say January 6th, but also half the country doesn't fucking care about that stuff. Maybe September 11th, something like that. But I mean, it is a noteworthy tragedy that people remember where they were when it happened and it moved them. So the country is in November and December and January mourning. It's a dark time in the United States of America. It's very uncertain time. It's a violent time. Things are changing and nobody knows what to do about it, but they're all very stressed out about it. One gets the feeling.
I'm stressed out about it.
Now, I want to go to the next step, which will lead us into our movie, but Shrishma, you had something to add.
No, you should finish your next.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Now, picture this. You've just heard this music. Right. And you've heard this song, and it sounds different from other songs that you've heard. There's a lot of energy. It's up-tempo, 3-part harmonies, electric guitars, louder than you've ever heard, and it's got a groove. It's got a beat to it that really you would only probably hear from what they would call at the time race records, which are records that were made by African Americans and were only played on certain radio stations in certain areas. And, people have a problem with people who are not white in all regards, including the music that's broadcast on the air, no matter how good it is. So you take this beat, this powerful beat, and you ramp it up a little bit more and you electrify it a little bit more. And then you channel it through these 4 guys with long hair. You've seen these movies, Shrishma.
I have.
That hair, I mean, nobody had that haircut.
No.
You had to be a fucking crazy beatnik, and even the crazy beatniks didn't make it into the motion pictures. Right. So you see these 4 guys, they all kind of look the same. They're all wearing the same outfits, same haircut. Again, outrageous. The haircut, I can't stress this enough, how outrageous it was at the time. It was symbolic of everything that, it was representing. But people thought they looked like women. Like, why are what are these lady boys?
Because usually, I guess, hair would men wore their hair short because army and all of those kinds of things.
Exactly.
And the long hair was not really seen as masculine. I would imagine.
Right. And so, we start to see the redefinition of what masculinity is. Right. It starts here as well. That's a big part of it. And so you take it and you channel it through these guys, and they are all, for the times, relatively good looking. Now it's hard to make that translate. I get it, because we all have veneers now, and we've all got plugs, and we're all doing Botox and whatever. But at the time, they were, cute boys, right? Right. And who loves cute boys? Fucking girls. Girls love cute boys, right? And I'm sure some boys as well. But this is happening at the same time that the country needs an outlet. Mm-hmm. And it happens at a time when the UK needs to culturally break into the US. Right. There's a very long history of UK artists who are very successful over there, being brought over to the US and failing. Okay. This happens all the time, to a point where the parent company of the Beatles record company, they just... You had to submit your singles from the UK to them, and they wouldn't even look at them. Right. It's just this isn't worth our time. It's not going to work. Mm-hmm. But these guys, the Beatles, I'm talking about, of course, not only do they have a look about them and they have a sound about them, they're also foreign. It's very alien in a world that is not as globalized as it is today. Right. Who are these people? Where are they coming from? They've got funny accents, but I like them, and they're kind of funny because you start to see them when they come over in February of '64. They do a big press conference at the airport, and they're charming and they're witty, and they're having a great time, and they represent this joy that the United States needed, and the U.S. embraces them immediately. Right. Now, do you want to make your point now, or should
no? Keep going.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is this helping contextualize? Yes. Okay. Because as previously discussed, I talk a lot about the Beatles, and the whole joke is that we don't talk about the Beatles because then I just keep talking about the Beatles. But this is the movie to do it.
Right. If any other movie, it would be this one.
Right. So this is all happening again at the same time that technology is meeting with this art and this cultural moment. So we have television. Television is still pretty new at this point, really only 10, 15 years old. But people have televisions in their homes now. It's now a part of standard home life, the same way that a coffee pot would be or something like that. It's, people have TVs, and there is TV culture. So the Beatles come over after spending the previous year basically charming the UK, and they're a phenomenon over there. Mm-hmm. And this is where you start to see the screaming happens. The Beatlemania starts there, of course. And this is where you start seeing these teenage girls lose control to a point where they're literally pissing themselves at these shows. Like, this is a story that I think Pete Townsend tells, where he the Beatles played in Blackpool, and the floor was just covered in urine because they couldn't control themselves. It was tapping into something. But you see it happen. Look at Harry Styles, right?
Yeah, agree. I mean, that I guess, yeah. I know it happens. It was just very hard for me to like. Why are you going so crazy?
It's the power of young women, I guess. I mean,
I was a young woman once. I never did that.
You never had a.
Not to the point where I was peeing myself.
Well, I think that's probably a very unique thing. I mean, so good you'll piss yourself, right? Only a handful of, that's a Beatles and Stones only tier. We're so good we make you piss yourselves type of thing.
I don't know, Shrishma. I think you and I are just a little too cool to be excited about it.
But here's the thing, Carolyn. Whereas in the past, maybe you would have some nerd in a suit, crooning his little ballad that somebody else wrote. You've got the cool people too, because these motherfuckers are cool because they are, it becomes quite clear, much smarter than everybody, much more hip and with it than everybody, have better judgment than everybody, and also create their own material. This was something that didn't happen at the time. They wrote their own songs.
Do we know if it was just good marketing at the time?
What?
Like that they became so popular?
Well, it's a complicated answer. How many hours do you have? Some of it is marketing, some of it, but mostly it is just quality of their performance.
Okay.
I would say
they played more than anybody. And
quality of the songs, catchiness of the songs, all of that.
As evidenced by the fact that, number one record 50 years later, right? I mean, it's still happening. So that endures. Yeah. And we've talked about it in the past, but of all the fucking, detritus we leave behind, only a handful of things transfer to the next 100 years. And they will be one of those things.
Agreed.
So you've got these cool guys. They have singles now on the radio. They had been submitting singles to the US. Nobody was picking up on it. They finally break through. And then all of a sudden, all of their old singles leap into the top, like they have 7 out of the top 10 spots or something like that. It starts to be a phenomenon. They're coming over. There's a huge buildup of the Beatles are coming. Right. The British invasion, that's marketing for sure. Right. That this whole British idea invasion. That, we're being invaded by these 4 charming lads, right? And
because clearly they won't. You never mind.
Well, it was a goal of theirs to make it in the US. We want to be the ones to do it, and they decided that we're not going to go over there until we have a number 1 record. Now, they were scheduled to go over there before they got the number 1 record, but it did work out that was what happened. Right. So they get signed up to do the Ed Sullivan Show, which is like that's the big show of the time. And they're, signed for 3 different performances. And when they go on this show, they're watched by 73 million people. Oof. Now, that might even seem low, but let's remember it's 1964. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. 190 million people in the country. And this shakes out to about 47% of all households were watching this in the US. And it is ground zero for US Beatlemania and also US rock and roll culture as we came to know it. Yep. And everybody who saw it wanted to start a band. If you were a kid, like you wanted to grow your hair out all of a sudden, like that just became the thing. Girls wanted to be with them. Boys wanted to be them, that thing. And then you have all these bands popping up. Yeah. Just everybody all of a sudden buys a guitar, and we have this American rock and roll phenomenon that carries on for the next 30 years, basically, where it is, in some regards, a viable career option for you to start your band and write some songs and practice in your garage and play some shows. And maybe you can do this for a living. Right. Doesn't happen that way anymore. Much to my chagrin.
You got to work those socials, man.
Yeah, exactly. It's a whole, oh man, I got to forward a paper to you about that. It's out there. But that is what we're seeing in this movie here, which is set in 1964. It's set in it looks like early summer. It starts in, so rock and roll culture, Beatles style has happened. And what assassination, like it's that kind of, Things move from black and white to color all of a sudden. And then we start the progress of the 1960s, truly, which becomes its own, psychedelia and all these things becoming mainstream that were once underground.
Yes.
So here we are, Shrishma Naik, it's your turn to talk, please.
No, I just wanted to say it's interesting that you set it up that way because India and Bangalore in particular has a very interesting rock scene. Like they love their rock music in Bangalore and certain parts of Bombay.
Makes me so happy to hear that.
And I feel like in the time period that you're describing, India was also like a newly independent democratic country.
Yeah.
And I feel like the Beatles ushered in the whole hippie wave in India, but also then the whole rock scene kind of trickled into India as well. So it kind of mirrored, not in the same way perhaps, because there were pockets of this, obviously not across the country, but there are very strong pockets of people during the 60s and the 70s that just love American rock music.
That's so
the
awesome.
Beatles.
Yeah.
And, you can go to even bars that still have live rock bands and stuff like that. So it's a whole culture thing in India. But from the way you described it, it seems like it all kind of triggered from the same place.
Yeah, I mean, there had been things leading up to, obviously we had Elvis 10 years before.
Yes. Yeah, I don't think Elvis was so big in India.
Right. And that was, not nearly the phenomenon that the Beatles were. Elvis was huge, of course. But it wasn't the full cultural transformation. It was just the start of the acceptance of this type of music, which is very specific. I notice this more and more as I live here in this place that is much more influenced by continental Europe, I think, than the US.
Yeah.
And Europe, I think, doesn't get it the same way. And how could they get it? Yeah. Because again, rock music is black music, black, capital B, black music.
Right.
And it comes from, old slavery spirituals and things like this, and that beat of, the blues and jazz and all this, that all, again, you boost the tempo, make it a little bit more snappy, upbeat. You turn up the volume a little bit, but you keep the same core elements, which are, sadness over your lady or your guy or whatever. I've got this problem. I got the blues,
right?
And also I'm horny too,
right?
So rock and roll, the term, was slang for having sex. So that is why, again, it's my 2-point system of analyzing and judging music that proclaims to be rock music. Is it sexy or is it dangerous? Because it has to be one of the two to be successful in what it's doing. Anything else, it's kind of just whining, It's
interesting. I did not know that was what rock and roll kind of.
Well, this is how I've quantified it anyway. But the best of it is about, I'm driving this fast car and here's a song about my car.
That will make that ride better.
That chick over there, it's not PC or whatever, but whatever. We talk to each other, talk about each other, right? That dude over there, I want to get with that dude. That chick over there, I want to dance with her. And then maybe we'll be smooching later, it's a very horny medium, right? Which is difficult to maintain in our modern society, right? I think, this is probably one of the reasons rock music has not persevered, is that, well, the form is pretty limited in that it's relatively simple, handful of chords, 3 or 4 chords, talking about a handful of topics that are, again, relevant to, whether it's cars, girls, drugs, whatever. But also because it's talking openly about those things are the things we really discuss in the same way with the same vocabulary because, and this is all progress, social progress. So I'm not going to knock it or anything like that, but sometimes you're just kind of horny. Sometimes you want to go get laid, right? And I got to find the song that's going to be the theme song for that. I'm going to turn it the fuck up, and it's going to hit me sonically. It's going to move the atoms in my body on some, deep level. That's how I experience it anyway. That's why I like it.
I feel like that. I feel that way about certain music. I won't say I feel that way about rock and roll, but there is certain, I would say Bollywood.
Okay.
But maybe I should not say that out loud.
No, you're the host of Beret for Bollywood. Coming soon. By the way, we're selling Beret for Bollywood. If there are any investors out there, we are pitching that currently. So you can just write to us, partyline at oldmovietimemachine.com, and give us all your money, and we'll just make that show for you. But so is it the message of the films?
No, it's usually the songs independently.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's like the music, the composition of the music, even the lyrics of it. There's some really good, like, smooth, soul-moving music that comes out of.
Well, and interesting because again, this is a very different music than blues-based rock and roll music, but it's what your people made to express themselves.
Exactly.
Your people, you know what I'm talking about.
Yes, I got it.
Okay. For the general listening audience, you people. Meanwhile, my sister and yours, Carolyn Naoroz, looks intensely bored right now. Carolyn, do you have any thoughts on any of this? What moves you? What art moves you?
Do I have thoughts on the movie? I'm just waiting to get to the movie.
All right, we're gonna get to the movie, but just real quick, what type of music do you like?
I like all kinds of music.
Okay.
But I also, David thinks it's weird. My husband thinks it's weird that I'm like, I don't play music at night when I'm trying to go to sleep. Don't play music when I'm reading a book because I get really annoyed where it's like it lights up different parts of my brain because I was a dancer. Like,
yeah.
So it like turns on different parts of my brain where I'm like, oh, now I can't relax because my brain's choreographing something to whatever you just put on.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and for me, I just love music in itself. So I'll just end up listening to whatever's on. So when I'm, if I have to write something, like it must be intensely boring music, or I've just found this out, some kind of, I think it's like classic 60s Japanese pop. I can't understand the words, but I like the sounds. So that's nice to write to because I'm not thinking about the thing. I'm not getting distracted. But anyway, let's talk about this movie. So here we are. It's 1964. Tell me about the wonders. Carolyn, go.
Wonders.
The Oneaters. The Onetters. The used to be called the Oneaters.
Yes,
whatever that line is.
Almost the Herdsmen. I did take a screen capture of that notebook that Jimmy has with all the different names. They are hilarious. The Mozarts, anybody? Oof.
Oh my God.
Also, real quick about this movie. Now, when we were set to watch this back in November, I did start watching it, and I realized, what the fuck is going on here? I don't remember this. I don't remember this.
What?
Turns out there's a director's cut.
Oh.
Now, Carolyn, you weren't present for this, but when we did the JFK, your brother went on a huge tangent about director's cuts and how they tend to be worse. And then I read off a list of director's cuts, and as soon as I brought up the list, I could see the life leave Shrishma Naik's eyes. Like I could see her dying inside. I didn't stop talking. I kept talking, but I did cut that out of the episode. But
I did a good job of pretending to.
You indulged me. I mean, that was a very indulgent episode. Again, the ballistics are conclusive.
Oh Lord,
a lot of bullet chat.
I think I made good points in that episode.
You look so disappointed when I started reading from my list of poor director's cuts that I actually cut that out of the episode because it just broke my heart to see it. But I'm not going to read it now because I don't want that to happen again because you were nice enough to come over and nobody comes over. But I do want to reiterate the fact that director's cuts, more often than not, huge failure, not a good idea. And this movie was not improved by the 40 extra minutes of. It was a lot. It was a lot of stuff.
So I did watch that version. I also didn't need to watch this movie because I've seen it so many times.
Yeah, you had the soundtrack.
Right. I had the CD and I used to play it in my Discman.
That's right. And I used to borrow that CD.
And for some reason, though, I only just in thinking about, because I watched it this morning, actually. I got up, I let the dogs out. I got my coffee, I got back in bed, and I put on the Oneaters.
Wait, I'm sorry. Who let the dogs out? Thank you.
Yeah, I did.
Continue. Yeah,
I did. So,
You.
as I was humming the soundtrack, as I was letting the dogs out, I'm like, guess I never realized that song, the little wild one.
Yeah, sure.
Is about cheating, motherfuckers.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah.
I haven't done a deep read on the
I
lyrics
love
on
my girl fine, but when I need a wild time,
that. Little wild one,
I'll come back. Right.
Good stuff.
Oh, that's his side chick.
Right. Side chick. It's a side piece. Fuck that shit. Jimmy's an asshole.
But he loves Diane Dane. Let's talk about the song, That Thing You Do. Do you know any of the backstory on where the song comes from? So it was like a general kind of cattle call to songwriters of like, we have this movie. Tom Hanks wrote this movie and directed it and starred
It's
in it.
charming. I love Tom Hanks and I love this movie. And
This is peak Hanks. He's coming off of, again, like a Costner-esque heater of Forrest Gump.
but he didn't do
Philadelphia.
Waterworld.
He didn't do a water. No.
No. Instead, he directed his. I mean, I'm just saying. I love Tom Hanks. I'm here for it.
Yeah. So he wrote the script. You know, he loves the Beatles and that story of the British invasion and everything. And the British invasion is just that band opens the doors for all the other bands that are happening, and they start to come over and tour, and you know, it's a new place for them to be, get their music heard. And so they just send out this request, send us a song that's called That Thing You Do. That's the name of the movie. It's the name of the single in the movie. And they get many of them. I think one of the alternate versions is actually on the record, and it's played over the end credits. It's just like a different version of something called That Thing You Do. The one that's in the film was written by, I think his name is Adam Schlesinger. Recently passed away during COVID, but his band was called Fountains of Wayne.
Mm-hmm. Oh, wait, this is now all becoming.
It's all coming back to me now.
No, different band. But maybe you would remember the song Stacy's Mom.
Yes.
They wrote that song.
Okay.
So Fountains of Wayne, wonderful songwriters, one of personal faves. Love their stuff, good records. And this is how they sort of get their break is, I think he was maybe just a general sort of all-purpose songwriter, jingle writer type of thing. I think that's the deal. I don't actually know the backstory, but I feel like I've read that somewhere. And it's a great song, I think. So great, in fact, that you can play it however many times they play it in this movie. And it's still exciting. Like it's, they're doing it smart. They're not playing it start to finish every time they play it. They're kind of dipping in during the guitar solo or during the middle eight part, which is like the change up in the middle of the song. But they make it last. They drain every last drop out of that song, and it holds up today. And was recently covered by Billy Joe from Green Day, I think, during COVID lockdown. Interesting. It's a nice version, pretty rockin' as well. But yeah, so that's the tune. Now let's set the scene for where Guy Patterson and Jimmy and Lenny and all the lads from the Oneaters come from in Erie, Pennsylvania. This movie is clearly made with a lot of love when it comes to attention to detail.
Mm-hmm. Except there wasn't enough smoking.
Shrishma, you took the words right out of my mouth. Now listen, you guys know this. Audience, you should be aware. I am deep into a Mad Men rewatch right now, and they are doing it right. They drink and smoke
every moment
on pace with back in the day, and it is amazing to see, and it really makes it. Now, everything is, aside from that, perfectly done here, but yeah, you're right. Everybody would be smoking.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like there were parts where like it would seem like there was smoking going on, but they would never actually physically show anyone.
Well, I noticed it at the end when Guy is in the studio and Del Paxton comes in and they jam, and all of a sudden Del Paxton's at the piano and there's an ashtray with a lit cigarette in it. But we don't see him holding it or lighting it or anything, but that's as close as they get, I think.
No, because the kids can't see that.
Well, this is what I was going to say. I think this is I'm curious to figure out, and I don't know how we can do this. Maybe we'll talk about it at the end of the show, but when was that off the menu of seeing people be smokers? Because people were still smoking in the 90s. I smoked in the 90s, but you didn't see it at a certain point. This movie's 96, probably shot in 95. So it's got to be somewhere around there because early 90s, we're still smoking inside and we're still showing it because that's how people behaved. So I don't know when that changed.
I don't know when that change would occur, but I definitely think that, one of the contributing factors to that obviously would have been the Reagan era dare, say no to drugs, which kind of, cigarettes and alcohol fell into.
Yeah. I think it was just a time when reality really started to sink in after about 30 years of denying said reality, which is, oh yeah, this shit will kill you.
Yeah.
We just have evidence. We've got the data to back it up and you can believe it or not believe it. I don't know how many people you need to see in your life leave through this exit, but that's what we're doing, people. And at a certain point, I guess in the 90s, mid 90s, we'll just say vaguely, that became not something that people wanted to be associated with in the media anyway. So otherwise, look, everything in this movie, the colors are there, the cars are there, the outfits are there. The Patterson Electronics Store, everything about this, display wise, all of the signage and everything. I mean, when I see Guy Patterson with all those vacuum cleaners, I've never been happier.
Oh my God. That moment when he's like climbing out of the vacuum cleaner display. It's
Hoover signs in the background.
Right. There's so many sweet, to your point, it was made with a lot of love, this film, obviously.
Yeah.
And I think that shows Tom Hanks is like, I'm going to do something that's for me, but it was so great, so tight. It was, but he also did a good job of, I think, casting and catching some of those little moments, even with like Guy dancing with his fingers in the opening credits across the washing machines. Yeah. Some of those things where it's like,
and Guy, played by Tom Everett Scott, of course, he was sort of a doppelganger for young Tom Hanks.
For sure.
The IMDb trivia will tell you that it was his wife Rita, who plays the waitress at the end at the Blue Spot. She was the one who convinced him to cast this guy because she thought he was cute and everything. And he's a great lead. I think he's very charming in this movie.
Yeah, whatever happened to him?
He did Dead Man on Campus with Mark Paul Gosselaar, and then promptly disappeared. No, I don't know. He's probably in one of those shows. I could see him being in one of those shows that I've never seen that has like 300 episodes.
Probably. He was a great young Hanks.
Yeah, he's got the look, and he is also he's charming, right? He's charismatic, and that's what you need. Actually, the entire cast, a very well cast movie, and I like the fact that they kind of had to go through musician boot camp. They went through a period of a couple months where they had to learn how to play their instruments and learn to play as a band, which I think is probably one of the best jobs you could get as an actor. I mean,
super. Well, maybe for you, yes, but for me, it'd be like, I'm going to ride in this film. I want to go to horse boot camp for film. I will say, I think Steve Zahn has never gotten enough credit for this film.
I think he slays in this movie.
I have thought that he got for years, he got some of the best lines. He got some of the best looks from Tom Hanks. And obviously that character was given those lines. And they picked such a good...
I think some of that stuff might be free. That might be some improv in there. I think so. Maybe. He seems like that type of guy who could get away with that, but
I've always thought that he was just an underappreciated character.
Agreed.
In this film.
When he's playing cards with the old men after the show, he's like, you got to be quick. I'm from your EPA. You want to see my deck?
Which is every time he's like, my favorite band is Captain Geach and the Shrimp Jack Shooters.
Yeah.
So there's some of those moments where
I got a pig over there. I'm going to get that blue ribbon.
Yes, exactly.
Great.
He takes nothing seriously. It's hilarious. I'm here for it.
We've got Ethan Embry as the bass player, who is the one person who doesn't have a name because bass players are famously kind of anonymous, quiet guys. So his name is TB Player, the bass player.
Great.
We never know who he is, but he is... we also know him from I don't know, Can't Hardly Wait, probably another, 90s classic. I think this is the era he has described. He was incredibly stoned throughout this part of the 90s. So I think he's pretty high here. Giovanni Ribisi shows up as the original drummer. Nice to see him, of course.
Also young, is it Charlize?
Yes, Charlize Theron.
And Liv Tyler.
Mr. F for you Arrested Development people out there. Yeah, Charlize really bringing it in that chilly ice princess way that she can do. Ice Queen, excuse me. Furiosa.
Maybe at that
Madame
time
Furiosa.
she was a princess. Now she's a queen.
I think she's taking the piss out of herself. I think she's always been aware that she looks the way that she does. I think so. She seems cool, right?
Yeah, she seems cool.
Liv Tyler. Peak Liv Tyler?
I feel like I didn't remember she was in this movie.
Has Liv Tyler peaked? I think not.
I mean, I can't. It's either this or Lord of the Rings, right? It's got to be. She's real cute here. That's all I got to say.
Right.
Yeah, I think peak Liv Tyler has probably not happened yet, though, because she seems like a timeless beauty.
So this is the group. We see them. We see the accident that brings Guy into. He's drumming in the basement at night while he's cooking the books for his old man. The dad, Guy's dad in this movie, he kills me. Because he is such a goddamn dad, and especially a dad of the times, just like all the talking he does to himself when he's going to get out of the car. Oh, just leave the light on all night long. Okay, Dad, not a big deal. Just like, oh my God, you are dad. You're every dad ever.
By the way, I never thought that particular accident was very realistic for like breaking his arm. And then I had teenage boys as stepsons.
You know what? That is very true. Actually, now that you bring that up.
And I'm like, that's how those jackasses break their arms.
That's right. They're real stupid like that. Congratulations. It's a stupid boy. We see them play That Thing You Do at the talent show, which is a very good cross-section of what was happening in popular culture at the time. So you get, and this is exactly what was happening on Ed Sullivan as well, is you would get not only the Beatles playing rock music, but you would get somebody doing like ventriloquist dummy shit, or somebody spinning the plates. We see it at the end at the Hollywood Showcase. All of that stuff is very accurate to what was, it's a variety show. You're getting all kinds of skilled people nowadays. It's America's Got Talent or something like that. Similar thing. But they play at this talent show filled with, a bunch of lamos, and then they rock out their song, and people love it because people love to dance, because dancing leads to fucking. And this is, again, the whole thing, the whole motivation. I want to get out there. I want to go meet somebody, right? And you can't, the guy says it in the movie, we want to meet girls, and we can't meet girls until we can dance. We can't dance till we get your music. So you got to do it. And that's where that groove comes in. Now, to conclude this first part, let's talk about, I want to talk about when they get on the radio. So let me read you the next part, and then we'll talk about that. Okay, so a manager with a really nice trailer gets their song on the radio and gets a bigger show for them in Pittsburgh. There they are swept up by Mr. White, a real record company bigwheel, and they join their new label's tour and watch their single rocket up the charts. They play to adoring fans and mix with their label mates until they are whisked off to LA for a TV special and the filming of a bad beach movie. So let's go back to they meet this guy who has a very nice trailer, likes their song and wants to be their manager, cuts a little deal with them, gets them on the radio. For me, this is my favorite scene in the whole film, because it does, I think, a great job of translating the excitement of this thing to at least a modern audience. Again, we're so far removed now because we all have Spotify, so we can listen to whatever we want
whenever we
want to.
Yep.
Back then, back when this movie came out, I had to go to my sister's bedroom and swipe this CD from her, because why would you have two copies of a thing, but also something belongs to somebody.
And you couldn't burn CDs at this time.
It wasn't easy.
It wasn't like as accessible as it became.
Yeah, it was expensive. Like those a CDR was like worth its weight in gold.
Yeah.
Seemed like. So, and then, but take it back 30 years prior.
Yep.
And again, music works differently. It actually is not dissimilar from how things are working today, in that it's more about singles, like a song rather than a collection. We saw this change from the early 60s where it was like a 45, an A side and a B side. The good song is on the A side, the B side is either, whatever. Mm-hmm. The thing they had left over. And that's where a lot of record sales came from. And then eventually through the Beatles' progress, they start coming up with full albums worth of material that are conceptual or themed. They were the first group to publish lyrics with their records, so you could know what the words were as you're listening to the thing. The entire idea of high concept artwork, that's all coming from the Beatles. Yeah. It used to just be a picture of somebody on the cover with their name next to them, looking off in the distance. And then things got a little bit more artsy, basically.
So why do you think in this movie, Tom Hanks did like an American-based band versus bringing a band in from like a...
Well, I think in a very basic way, this is his childhood. I think,
okay.
This is his experience growing up.
Okay.
And witnessing United States band culture sort of emerge. Okay. I can't say for sure. I don't know exactly when Tom Hanks would have been born, but this seems to line up pretty similar because he probably shared in the excitement of
the Beatles,
this happening, right?
I understand.
And so I think that's part of it. Also, it's a bit more the one-hit wonder aspect of it. Mm-hmm. That seems a bit more... It's not exclusive to the US, but I'm sure it's more accessible from a storytelling point of view. And also, I'm sure he, like the rest of us, loves mid-century modern design aesthetic. And that's all very American, the tail fins and the chrome and all that stuff, combined with the Danish influences and modern furniture, getting away from mid-century grandma and going to MCM, which is where we like to be. So... The getting on the radio, I mean, what a thrill. This is the dream. So anybody who's ever put together their little garage rock band, this is the ultimate goal, is to...
They played on the...
Yeah. Or was before the internet,
Was it
right?
for you as well?
I mean, it was something that I couldn't even conceive of. Like, that wasn't ever going to be an option, I don't think, if only because... the music I like is maybe not as accessible. And, and I happened to grow up in a very brief window of time of the early 90s when the music that I liked, and maybe that time period informed what I liked and, vice versa. But that was an exception to the machinery that we see of the music industry, where it's just, these people are really good.
Right.
Nirvana has the best songs, has the best drummer, has the best singer, like everything about them is the best. So it doesn't matter where they come from, just they're the best. People love it. Yeah. And they're loving it without all the machinery. Right. So we might as well just bring them into the machinery. And they open up a door to other heavier hard rock bands, Stone Temple Pilots, Soundgarden, Alice in Chains, and then after that initial wave kind of dies out, then you get sort of echo wave, which is 90s punk rock, which then morphs into what we would call pop punk now. So you would get Green Day and you would get Rancid, and you would get, later on some ska bands and things like that, underground bands with skilled songwriters and a look and an energy. For me, I was drawn to that type of music and all rock music because of the energy, because it makes me feel something inside that makes me want to just freak the fuck out. I don't know what it is. That's what moves me. So turn up the volume, turn up the tempo, let's make it loud, and also keep it groovy. Got to have groove, right? You got to keep it kind of sexy, right?
Right.
Or dangerous, whichever. And the punk rockers, a little dangerous. But that was a rare exception. That window closes around 95, 96, and when this movie comes out, actually. And then things go back to normal, which is we, the people who control the purse strings, we choose who gets to go up front of the line.
Yeah, makes sense.
But
classic capitalism.
Exactly. So in a sense, the early 90s mirror the early 60s in that it's just, this is happening and people like it, and we are racing to keep up with it. Right. Oh man, I want to talk so much more about this. I'll save it. Look, let's talk about Mr. White.
We have to talk about the movie, Justin.
We have to talk about the movie. So Mr. White, the label honcho, the manager. I mean, this is, again, he's a kind of a dead ringer for the Beatles manager. This guy called Brian Epstein, who sees these guys playing at a very small club in Liverpool and sees people of their age group reacting to it and requesting the music in his store. He owns a record store. He is only 6 or 7 years older than them. I mean, that's how clearly defined the generational divide is. Right. Is like Brian Epstein came from a world of business, old world. You wear a suit, you look nice, you conduct business a certain way, and then he sees these sort of ratty, punky kids playing this music. But he sees what the appeal is to these guys, and he knows they're going to be bigger than Elvis. That's his whole thing. That's his selling. It's his pitch to everybody. Bigger than Elvis. 4 Elvises. You thought one was good? Check out 4 of them. Right. And they write their own shit.
And we're talking about the Beatles again.
Yeah, talking about the Beatles. Sorry. Anyway, I'll show you a picture of Brian later. He looks exactly like Tom Hanks in this movie, down to him standing off to the side during the show, sort of deadpan, chewing his gum, kind of nodding his head. Like, that's all Epstein stuff. Now, the Tom Hanks character gives a little bit more American cynicism, right? He's much more shouty Tom Hanks, which is, can we all agree, the best Tom Hanks?
Yeah, I really like this, like his acting in this movie. I remember enjoying it when I first watched it.
Yeah.
And I still enjoyed it.
Okay. Yeah, I think it holds up really. Right. This is a funny movie, I think. It's a funny movie. Anytime he's shouting at Lenny, I'm so happy.
Lenny, the unsung hero.
Yeah. So they go on this package tour. They're now signed up to Playtone, right?
Right.
And this is what they would do. This is what Motown used to do. We're going to take all of our people. We got the house band with us. They all go on the road. And this is where time-honored tradition, you're not going to make any money from your record sales. You get fractions of a penny for every record you sell, because that's the way the business is set up. And so that means you got to hit the road if you want to make some bank being a musician. And that's what they would do. So they would tour like this, and pop tour like this. Yeah, they're playing county fairs.
Right.
There's some really entertaining footage of the Rolling Stones' first US tour where they're playing gigs like this on some trailer out in the middle of nowhere to people who are just like, don't even know what they're looking at. It's all so fresh and new. And we're seeing this reaction from particularly the women. Right. But the guys are right there with it too, because they're
enjoying the music. Well, I guess
they also like the women, so they're like, okay, these guys, all right. Yeah, I like the music. They're so cool. Yeah. How do I get to be? Got to pick up a guitar, right? This is how it happens. It's, I'm not saying it's the purest of intentions, art or whatever, but everybody wants to get laid, and you do it the way that you got to do it, right?
This is true.
So this is one avenue for that, to meet girls, to go talk to a girl. So we see them, we see the excitement of their single rising up the charts, and we get some nice montages. Montage, it's a very risky proposition. Again, it's sort of like voiceover. It can be seen as a ham-fisted sort of shortcut for storytelling in a movie. I think it works really well here, because you're seeing, there's lots of visual cues that you can use, whether it's like the actual charts of the records, them traveling from gig to gig, them talking to their label mates, as we already, talked about. And it's very exciting, so not unlike them being on the radio, back at the store, turning on every single radio, listening to that song. What a thrill.
Right.
And what a thrill to play in front of people who like what you're doing. That's everybody's goal.
Yeah.
It's just, anybody dig this? And when you see it's everyone a bunch of people,
yeah,
that's quite something. So before we get to the LA part, any other thoughts on this? Being on tour, going to Pittsburgh, Vicksburg's in the Pittsburgh.
I feel like being on tour sounds like fun. But I could do it for a 1 week maximum.
That's the thing. I've never done it proper. It's only been weekend things, but what I understand is that it's very boring.
Oh.
Because even when you're wildly successful, when you're a struggling group, that's its own set of things to deal with, the car breaking down and where are we sleeping and how much money do we make and do we have gas to get to the next place? Even when you're famous, though, it becomes an issue of, well, I like being on tour for the 2 hours I get to play my show. And the other 22 hours, I'm just kind of sitting around waiting for those 2 hours. You kind of go crazy. It's all hotels. Yeah. You don't have access to anything personal. You're just on a bus or in a van or whatever.
It's tiring.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds brutal to middle-aged me now, but that's why it's kind of like a young person's
I feel
game,
like,
right?
in the 20s, it was exciting, but.
Yeah, even in the 20s.
No, in my 20s.
Yeah.
When I was, yes.
You were a road warrior? You were ready?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like I had so much energy in my 20s.
Right.
It's non-existent. Right?
Yeah, no, that's gone. And shit is gone. So they get called out to LA because they're going to be on their own Ed Sullivan show, the Hollywood Showcase, featuring Bryan Cranston as Gus Grissom. Did you guys notice Cranston? I'd never noticed that before. But
I hadn't noticed it before either, but I guess now we're more familiar with his face.
I guess so. Yeah. Yeah. So they get called out to LA. Immediately things start to fall apart as
they do.
Right.
LA.
These are simple small town boys getting shipped out to the Big Apple. What is LA called, Carolyn? You used to live out there. What's it called? What's the Big Apple? The City of Angels, right?
Yeah, the City of Angels. Yeah.
Beckon to the City of Angels, where sin is around every corner.
Well, I also think that, simple small town boys, except Jimmy's an asshole.
Oh yeah. I mean,
he's an artist.
He's just a straight up asshole. He is. All of them are band archetypes, right? So we have the bass player who's so anonymous he doesn't have a name. We have Lenny, the sort of the funny one, right? He's the goofy one. We have the cool guy. His name is Guy. How cool is that? He's wearing sunglasses, playing the drums, having the time of his life wherever he is. And you have, as Tom Hanks put it, the talent, right? Yeah. I'm the thinker.
Emo lead singer.
Yeah, I wrote this song about my feelings, which, some of us will do that, right? So,
were you the emo lead singer, Justin?
I was.
Oh, please.
Interesting.
Indeed, yes. I was. Zero fun.
So do you relate?
Feelings.
Do you relate to this guy?
Well, I mean, I recognize that guy, but I'm not happy about. But on the other hand, it's like, well, that thing you do, that is a hot song that he wrote there, so he can kind of get away with whatever the fuck he wants. Like, if you,
but it was the other guy who made it good.
Well, that's true, and that's the glory of playing in a band, Shrishma.
Right.
This is what a solo artist cannot do. Is the chemistry of other people participating. Right. And the communication that happens between band members when you're playing, something's kind of special about that. It's a very magical experience. But so, as they immediately, they're falling in love with strangers and running off to join the Marines at Disneyland and getting drunk at the jazz club where Guy gets to meet his hero, Del Paxton, famous jazz pianist, famous within the context of the movie, not a real guy. Looks great here, plays the role perfectly, and they have the deep conversation between like the old grizzled veteran and the up and comer about how music works and how bands work and how you just got to keep playing. If you love to play, just keep playing. Yeah. Bands will come and go. And this is sort of part of the message of this film. And Hanks talks about it openly about, one hit wonder. It happens all the time. This shit happens all the time. Yeah. And indeed it did, and continues to do, I'm sure, at this point. It's awfully difficult to maintain that type of relationship because it is a working relationship, but also you're living together. So it's kind of a marriage at the same time, and you're creating together. It's a lot of room for error. A lot of things can go wrong. Personality conflicts happen all the time. Yes. And
I guess the like the whole like how the lead singer becomes like the leader of the band, and like the whole popularity contest and the insecurities from the other. I feel like no matter, like that's a common theme among all, a lot of these band situations.
This is pretty common issue is credits,
right?
Songwriting credits, right? Because whoever writes the songs is going to make most of the money, because it's not just record sales then, but it's the publishing.
Yeah.
And if somebody wants to cover your song, they got to buy it from you, the songwriter. Getting the sheet music printed, like that all goes. So if you're the drummer and the bass player,
you don't have
or if you're in Beatles parlance, if you're George and Ringo, you're not making Lennon McCartney money. Those guys got hits on top of hits, and they're getting paid out the ass for it.
And they wouldn't put everyone's name on the credits? Like all the band members?
No, some bands choose to do it that way. Sometimes that works out, sometimes not so much. There are very notable cases for both instances. Sometimes this happens and it just, simplifies things, even, quarter split or three-way split or whatever. We're all making the same. We're doing this together. Other times you start with the equal split, and then the person who's actually doing the work of writing the music starts to feel like, well, what the fuck are you bringing to this party, bass player? I'm doing the work here. Like, you just got to show up and play the notes that I show you to play. Why are you making millions in my pocket? And of course, you start living this lifestyle. You start buying your cars and your houses and everything. And boy, this shit's expensive, right?
More money, more problems.
Exactly. So that's how it happens. This is where art and commerce meet and butt heads, because the spirit of rock music tends to be one of, artsy, horny people, not business people.
Right.
And at a certain point, though, if you want to be successful, you got to mix in that commerce. And that means you got to treat it as a job. And then it stops being as much fun as it was. And then got all these responsibilities and got to start thinking about money, for fuck's sake. Awful. And then that is neither dangerous nor sexy.
It's not.
It's not. It's boring.
I mean,
but practical.
Practical.
Carolyn, where are you at? Tell me about your LA experience with that thing you do.
My LA experience?
Well, how do you like this last third of the movie?
I mean, it's good. I like this movie as a whole. I think that it's a very realistic portrayal of what would happen when you get to LA if you were being, if you were with a record label and you're going to do, Captain Geach and the Shrimp Shack Shooters and the Tina film. And
and we've seen those movies.
We watched them.
Look like, so.
Right. And, it's believable that the quote unquote talent would complain about it. Like, when are we getting to the studio? When are we getting to the studio? When are we getting to the studio? Thanks, Jimmy. We all know you want to get to the studio. How about you sit your ass down and have a good time and enjoy it?
No, can't do it. I gotta think about my ego and my feelings.
Right. What else? Yeah, it was good. It was realistic.
I feel like this is also a love letter to classic 1960s television production as well. Mm-hmm. Again, you can see the love that Tom Hanks has for the guys in the booth, the guys calling the shots. We're seeing close-ups of the shooting scripts. We're seeing all the monitors. We're listening to the director coach his, the crane arm over, like, that's a beautiful shot. Slow it down. Looking good, guys, looking good. All of those cues come from the Sullivan Show with the Beatles. So even the "Careful Girls, He's Engaged," that was something that they did to John Lennon on Sullivan of, "Hands off, girls, he's married," which was a trade secret at the time, not talked about because you have to appear available, right?
You want to lose the appeal.
But John had impregnated his girlfriend and married her, as you will do, and then later divorced her, and cheated on her profusely the entire time that they were famous.
That's awesome. As rock stars tend to do.
Boys will be boys, Shrishma, right?
Fucking bullshit.
I feel, though, if I was famous and popular and, had people throwing themselves at me.
Yeah. Take advantage?
Yeah.
Yeah, fuck yeah, right?
Although,
I
Shrishma,
mean-
a double standard for women, if we took advantage,
Yeah,
then we would be labeled as sexually promiscuous instead of being like, well, duh, of course
I'm such a stud.
Well, and this is, again, still an era where there was a sort of gentleman's agreement. We talked about it with Kennedy in his dangerous liaisons, but something you wouldn't talk about. You don't talk about.
That's convenient.
It just wasn't polite society, okay?
What did you call it? Gentleman's agreement.
Gentleman's agreement, yeah.
There was no ladies' agreement.
No, because
we like to talk shit.
That's
We like to talk shit, throw shade, and tell you, we're annoyed.
Yeah, that's right. But I think you should all go on the road and sleep with whoever you want to. I think that's equality.
In my 20s. But now
you got to come to her.
Yeah.
She's not traveling anywhere.
Only between the hours of.
Yeah. And call ahead. I mean,
call ahead. We'll
right.
see,
She gets sleepy. So
we'll pencil you in.
All of that sounds like way too much work. It
sounds like post-COVID touring to me. I mean, it sounds like the world that that's just emerged post-pandemic. So, just let me real quick. I'll nerd out on the instruments. Beautiful vintage instruments here. They are beautiful instruments. Whoever put the band together, they knew the right ones to get. You get the nice Sunburst. You get yourself a nice Rickenbacker, and they're just beautiful, timeless instruments. But yeah, so those look great. The group looks great when they're playing. This is a thing that musicians will do. This is what the Beatles would do back in the day. Is they would see footage go to these old rock and roll pictures that we've talked about, right? The Girl Can't Help It, right? Are these guys actually playing the song? So they're checking fingers. They're checking to see, are they playing the right chords to the thing? Is this guy an actor? Is he a musician? These guys, they clearly learned how to play their 3 songs or whatever, and they look great doing it. And that's part of why this movie works, I think. They do represent this entity, this thing, this cultural force. And it was a distinct cultural force in the U.S. for, again, like 30 years. Not so much anymore, but
if I had to choose a member of a band to sleep with,
I love this.
Let's hear this.
It will definitely be the drummer.
From the Oneaters, from the Wonders.
Generally.
Yeah, okay.
In a band.
You were just saying the role.
Right.
You would be a Shades. Okay. I thought you were going to be like Steven Tyler from Aerosmith.
I thought you were going to give us some anyone in history.
I feel I don't know rock bands enough to name the drummer, but I've always the drummer has always stood out to me. Ooh,
really? Okay.
I'm a drummer chick.
So an answer. The drummer would be the most rhythmically inclined of all the band members. So
yep. Good with his hands.
That groove, you know what I'm talking about? Meanwhile, guitar players are up there fingering their phallic-like instruments that are, perfectly set at crotch level. What are we doing up here, guys? Obviously.
I think you're really into yourselves.
Yeah. Oh, exactly. It's really interesting. I'm almost done, I promise.
Right.
But as far as, rock and roll music and bands go and everything, it is interesting. Some people are just fucking drummers. Some people are bass players. Some people are lead guitar
personality
players.
Type.
There was never a question in my mind. Oh yeah, I play the guitar. Even when I didn't play the guitar, I'm a guitar player.
Right. Interesting.
Never a question ever. And I know drummers gravitate the same way to making their noise.
I feel I agree. I tried the drums. I didn't realize it was quite as complicated.
Yeah, it's tricky. It's tricky. You got to be able to do a bunch of different things. Tempo, rhythmically. That it's tough. I don't know. But yeah, so that's that thing you do, more or less, right? At the end, they break up, but then they all find their own happiness. We hear the song again. And then I think during COVID, the actual performers did get back together for some kind of Zoom reunion type of thing. And they're all still friends because they've had this bonding experience that can only come through being in a rock and roll band.
No, it can only come through being in a Tom Hanks movie.
True.
Well, I'm sure that comes into it as well.
Was Tom Hanks part of this reunion?
I don't remember. I don't know. I didn't watch it.
Okay.
I'm not really into that stuff.
Sure.
I will say shout outs to Tom Hanks. If you do hear this, he listens to pods, you know.
Oh, hi.
Hi. Hey, Tom. Hey.
My parents love Tom Hanks. He's one of the few like Hollywood.
Who doesn't love Tom Hanks?
That they actually recognize and appreciate.
Sure. He's very appreciable,
Right.
if that's the term. I mean, it's all hits for Tom Hanks.
It is.
I mean, we can take it back to now. Peter Scolari is in this movie. He plays the host of the Hollywood Showcase, and I didn't realize this. I didn't realize in the past that this was him in this movie playing this role, but he was Tom Hanks's co-star in their sitcom they had together in the early 1980s called Bosom Buddies, in which they were. The premise is they were two bachelors, yes, who were hard up, like real poor, and they were living in a housing complex for only women, so they would have to dress up as women and then live their lives as men, sort of thing. Like that was the premise. So anyway, that was the two of them. It was nice to see Hanks bringing in his co-star there. Nice shout out. Again, Cranston, kind of mind-blowing. I think it's what Chris Isaac plays Uncle Bob, who records the song at the church. And yeah, Kevin Pollak plays the boss, Vic Koss, Vicksburgs and the Pittsburghs. Anyway, it's a great movie for this type of story. Does it really well. I think it holds up very nicely. And as movie, as somebody's first movie, Tom Hanks's first, his directorial debut, it maintains a certain amount of independent flavor, right. I think, which was very of the moment of the 90s, a concurrent with early 90s alternative music becoming mainstream. You also see this happening in film as well. You start seeing independent filmmakers, Robert Rodriguez and Kevin Smith and Linklater, Slacker and all this. These sort of art house movies become more mainstream because they are reflecting this alternative culture in their films. Right. And so that, again, gets rolled into the mainstream and we see it become normalized and just part of things now. So all that old heaviness that used to be so outrageous, it's now just kind of standard issue. It's just part of Western culture now. Kind of exciting, but that's that thing you do, you guys. So at this point in the show, we ask a question, which is on behalf of all of humanity, which is, hey, this movie we just talked about, The World Beyond the Window, do we keep watching this thing? And bonus question for this mini arc of Old Time Movie Machine, does this do a good job of representing 1964 as we know it? Shrishma Naik.
Yes and yes.
Okay. You like it?
I like it.
All right.
And I think it, apart from the smoking, which I think they tried to do in the low-key way that, they probably were regulated to do.
Yes, yes.
So yeah, I think it did a pretty good job.
Okay, great. I'm glad that you want to keep this thing.
Yeah.
You do. That thing you do. My sister and yours, Carolyn Naoroz, what do you think? You keep watching this thing?
Yes, absolutely. I loved it then. I love it now. I love Tom Hanks. Give me all the Hanks. Thanks. It's a love letter to Tom Hanks.
It's a Hanks thanks. All right.
Hanks thanks. The Hankses in general, including Rita Wilson, lovely, charming Rita Wilson, who deserves a shout out too for this sweet.
She really does. What a dreamboat in this movie. Good Lord.
She's a dreamboat now. She's a dreamboat at any age. I mean,
And shout out to Colin Hanks too, who is also currently in my season of Mad Men that I'm watching.
Oh, I love Colin Hanks. He's
he strums his little acoustic guitar at one point. Very charming. All right, so yes is from you. Yes is from me, of course. I liked it then, as you say. And this movie came out, I was 15, 16 years old, so I was cynical. I was already jaded. I could feel the window closing. You were
still stealing my CD.
I love a good tune. I love a good pop tune. There's no way around it. And I like stories about bands. I love every band episode of every television show that's ever had one. Shout out Jesse and the Rippers. Zach Attack, all of you guys, like if there's media about being in a band life, I've mentioned it many times on all of our various programs here, but it is sort of the prism that I view existence through in a sense, because I love music and playing music. And it's weird to live in a world where that stuff doesn't matter in the same way, or, band music or rock music. But once upon a time, and in the 90s in particular, it was still alive and well and thriving. And so we're going to keep this thing. And also, I think it does do pretty spot on 64. Like you say, the smoking and the drinking could use way more of that. But what are you going to do? Now, let's get down to the real business here. Let's talk about this program. Let's talk about our absence from this program. We did take 2 months off. Mm-hmm. Again, sometimes shit happens.
True.
So let's talk about
shit happens at the same time.
It all happened to everybody. It was crazy. It was really crazy. Let's talk about this program, Old Movie Time Machine. We like doing it. We like talking to each other. We have a feeling that there is not an audience for the show as it currently exists, though. The numbers bear this out. Turns out nobody's seen these movies. And also, apparently, nobody has any interest in seeing these movies. So what we've decided, and also feel like we're hitting a different type of audience than maybe we had anticipated.
Right.
Because we got this YouTube page, right? Where we put all these episodes up. We just make little videos. Pretty simple, but please join our YouTube page and our following. But we're getting feedback on the YouTubes, and it is so amusing to me because clearly the audience we're hitting, according to the demographics that they're giving us on YouTube, it's a little bit older, reflected in the comments, because I think the people who find our show are being directed by the algorithm to our show. I think they don't know how YouTube works or what podcasts are or how any of this works. And that's concerning for me as a content creator.
Right.
Because all I'm seeing here are comments such as, are you going to play the movie or are you going to talk it out? Another comment. We are looking for movies, not your chit chat. That's a fucking t-shirt, by the way. That comes from @ChristInMe 4 weeks ago. We are looking for movies, not your chit chat. Here's another one. Get on with the show. I don't need this stuff you are saying.
Did they not listen to the intro where we describe what the premise of
this
the
is my issue, Shrishma, is that we're reaching people who don't understand the internet or how any of this shit works, which is I could take 5 seconds and click on the link to the thing I'm looking at that says Old Movie Time Machine just to see what it's about, because we are clearly labeled as a podcast about old movies.
Right.
All of our episodes are clearly labeled, it's a mad world, Old Movie Time Machine, episode number 50. Why would we be labeling movies by number? Right. Also, why are you operating under the delusion that I can freely publish movies on YouTube and I'm doing that for the public benefit? Use your fucking brain.
That is true.
So I'm calling all these motherfuckers out because at this point in the show, an hour plus in, they're not listening, right?
No.
But hey, airheads, such as Falco Toll 9299, all caps. I want to see the movie itself. Double exclamation points. Here's another one. I thought this was the movie, not people talking. I can't help it.
Maybe you should add paid subscriptions to the movie folder.
How does that work? What do you mean? What is how does that work?
Your movie folder where all.
Oh yeah. Oh. So they
can watch their damn movie.
It's been lovingly called Zepflix for many years, and we just make that mainstream,
right?
And
then they can watch the damn movie and then listen to our commentary on
dummies.
The movie.
Show me. And I'm not saying that there aren't movies on YouTube. Of course there are, but also these are not so obscure that they're not published on Amazon or Blu-ray or whatever the fuck. I mean, some of them are, but we try to keep it mainstream. Alfred Hitchcock estate. They know where that money is coming from. So no, I'm not publishing Rear Window on YouTube, you dummies.
Yeah, agreed.
No movie. Clickbait, says Steve Jenkins 2667.
Oh, no.
Now, to be fair, that one had a reply, which we gave a little heart to. From Spencer Frank Clayton 4348. Shout outs to Spencer Frank Clayton. It didn't say it was just the film. Hey, you get it, guy. Spencer, you get it. Oh, shout out to Kyle, by the way, our fan.
Oh, hey, Kyle.
Hey, Kyle. What's up?
Hi, Kyle.
Has nothing to do with you, Kyle.
You're amazing.
You are. I mean, we'll put the drop in from that thing you do here, which is, hey, wasn't that our fan? Because that's you, Kyle.
That is
appreciate
Kyle.
it.
Hey, wasn't that our fan?
You get it. Christ and me, obviously not checking in as often as they should be, other than we are looking for movies, not your chit chats. This is the thing. This is the product, is our chit chat.
I think we should be like somewhere like chit chat only. No movies here.
Listen, don't hate the player, hate the game, right? I'm just using SEO best practices by putting the movie up front of the title.
Agreed.
But read the rest of the goddamn title.
Agreed.
We're clearly saying it's an episode of something.
Right.
And if you look at what that something is, it's a podcast. You guys, we're not fooling anybody. And also,
But also keep listening.
keep listening because we love you. If you do like the show,
Right.
then we appreciate your listens, of course. But here's what we're doing. We've decided, because you guys don't like this, you listeners, you don't like these movies. We like talking about them, but not so much to where we want to keep talking about them for another 50 episodes. I've got the 50 episodes. We could do another season. You know, I've got the list.
Yes.
But here's
As
what
long
we're
as
going to
it
do.
Doesn't involve another of the beach movies.
Oh, there's
I
so
would
many more beach movies,
suffer
Shrishma.
for
I mean,
There's so many beach movies.
but we're going to avoid that because we're moving to a different era in time.
We are.
So next time we're going to be doing a format transition where we're going to basically be doing what we've been doing through the Cold War, but we're taking it up to a little place I like to call the 1990s. Old movie time machine, 1990s, everybody. It is happening. Starts next week. And we're starting with, it's a personal fave. And also represents an era where people would still be shown on film, smoking inside. It's the early 90s. It's a movie called Don't Tell Mom, The Babysitter's Dead. And it is important for reasons we're going to talk about next time.
I have a story that I will share next time, but you have to remind me.
I'll try to.
It's about
We have a real list. Okay, so I put everybody on YouTube on blast. Oh, by the way, Carolyn and I were guests on another podcast by our friend Movie Rob. It's a minute by minute analysis of a film. This season, it's A Wonderful Life, Frank Capra's classic, starring Jimmy Stewart. And I just want to make sure I have the name of the program right, so you can go listen to us on said show and give Rob some listens too, because he's a nice guy and he showed us a really nice time.
We had a great time.
Yeah, we had a great time doing it. And it was a great excuse for me to watch It's a Wonderful Life, which I had never seen before.
We also got like some of the best minutes in that movie.
Movie Rob Minute Podcast is what it's called. It's happening now. And our week starts on February the 5th, I believe.
Oh, nice.
So it should be right around when this episode drops. And also, February 24. So happy 60th anniversary, Beatles. Welcome to America. We appreciate you and we still love you. And that's it. Any further thoughts for this episode before we take our time machine to the 90s?
No, it's been fun. The 60s have been fun.
Mm-hmm. We might come back. Who knows? We might.
I also think that with the 90s, I don't know if we can do one-line I don't know if we can do can we in or out, because I feel they're all going to be in.
This is the thing. Yeah, we have already had this conversation via text, which is, what are the rules? Does it have to be contemporaneous to the time? Like what we've been doing.
Right.
And the 90s, we threw all the rules out the window, you guys. So that's what we're doing here, because I'm not going to not talk about Bram Stoker's Dracula just because, there's no more 90s movie than that. It just happens to not be set in the 1990s.
Yes.
I think it's going to be really interesting because from what y'all were proposing, your movies you want to touch, it's a different era from my era, which will be that smoking inside era that we were talking about, that window that was so brief and closed. But you guys are a couple years younger than me, so it's going to be different, but this is part of the process. Carolyn, are you excited?
I am excited. I do think that we're going to have to come up with a different name for the 90s wing of the Boom Room.
Oh, yeah, because we are still going to have to gather some artifacts. Do we have any artifacts for this movie, by the way? I mean, I'll just take all the guitars.
I didn't think about it.
I'm taking the sunglasses.
The sunglasses, very nice. You should take the electronics store.
Sure.
It's got a bunch of nice stuff in there. Old washing machines,
Maybe I'll take his
clock
drumsticks.
radios. Oh, that'd be nice too,
That'd be
sure.
good.
Okay.
I'm going to take Tom Hanks. I'm just going to stick him in my pocket. Love you, Tom.
All righty. One more person for the boom room. Again, I got a lot of questions about that, but we don't have time now.
I didn't say I was putting him in the boom room.
You just want to take him?
Yeah, I'm just going to take him and put him in my pocket.
All right. Sounds like somebody's.
I feel like Rita would have
sounds like somebody
to
needs
say
some
about
rock and
that.
roll music playing. Somebody needs that backbeat. All right. Okay. So yeah, next time, don't tell mom the babysitter's dead. Tell all your friends. Tell all your enemies too. We're going to the 90s. We're staying there for as long as we want. Also, the schedule is out the fucking window. We're going to make these when we want to, because if nobody really is caring so much, then we're just going to do this because we want to do it, right? So we're going to talk about movies we want to talk about at a pace that we want to talk about them, but we're still going to give you the same great flavor you've come to expect and know and love. And we hope you join us on this new adventure, because, if we get through the 90s, what's right next to the 90s? Fucking 80s.
Oh.
There's a lot.
By the way, when we get
I'm
to
so surprised by that.
You're going to go forward.
Oh, okay. No, because if we go forward,
Yeah, I get it.
it's a dark period. The 2000s, the Audis.
They were not bad.
Oof, I don't know, Shrishma. What do we keep from the 2000s?
From the 2000s.
I don't have to take a look, but just in general, culture in general was
Iron Man came out in the 2008.
late 2000s.
Lord of the Rings.
Lord of the Rings.
All right.
The Harry Potter movies.
Harry Potter's.
Out. Well,
This is a compelling case.
There's
Girls Gone Wild, 2000s.
Transformers. The first one.
Yeah.
Just the first one.
Yeah. Those aren't for me, but they're real loud, they're noisy and tough to look
the
at.
The first one was really, really good.
Okay.
After that, it just went.
Okay. Yeah. I watched them all. And
God, I won't finish this statement.
Oh, come on. Finish the statement. All right. Guys, we're done. This is the episode. That thing you do. Thank you for joining us in Old Movie Time Machine. Please write us emails if you're like 100 years old like we are and still write emails. Partyline at oldmovietimemachine.com. Follow us on the grams at Time Machine Podcasts. Anything else? What am I forgetting here?
I think we're good. Hi, Catherine. I missed you.
Yeah. Shout outs to Catherine. Shout outs to Brindis. Of course, our CFO. She's buried under invoices because we can't pay our bills because nobody listens to our program. But we're going to change that, all right?
We are.
We're going to the 90s.
We are.
Hey, guys, don't tell mom.
The babysitter's dead?
Babysitter's dead.
She's dead. All right. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.